What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Please follow it and rate it wherever you get your podcast. Rate it on iTunes. It helps goes a long way. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. All that good stuff goes a long way. Please and thank you. So let's dive into today. We're continuing with our simple defensive segment. This is for, youth coaches, new coaches, getting into football. I want to break things down as simple as humanly possible. My middle name is Stupid Simple when it comes to sports. So why not share simple information with people and maybe it clicks with people? So let's dive into today's episode. Last time we talked about the 4-2-5, the 4-4, and even the 4-3, how similar they are, how different they can be. So let's talk about one of the most basic coverages out of these formations on defense, and that is cover two. So we're going to talk about cover two out of a 4-2-5 look, and you'll see how similar it could be out of a 4-4, and then how a 4-3 works when it comes to cover two. And so you could see what a cover two is, what kind of players you're going to need for those defenses. So let's dive right in. We'll talk about the cover two defense. So here we'll go into a 4-2-5 look. We'll go against a 2-by-2. So I call this spread right. Again, we have to look at this from a defensive perspective. So bear with me. It is hard to do it this way on offense. Right now, we'll have a 2-by-2 set. So 2-by-2 most commonly is when you're probably going to play cover two. Now, cover two is exactly what it sounds like. You got two guys covering things. Now, they're going to cover deep halves. So if the ball is in the middle of the field, they have to cover halves. So rule of thumb is the half is from the hash mark to the sideline. You can have them sneak inside, but you want them to cover out in this general area. So when you go with a 4-2-5, again, you can name them however you want. We talked about how you can name them before, your jack or your bandit. If you want your bandit to be more of your drop back guy, great. So when you play cover two, you have to have your corners out on the farthest wide receivers. And then you've got the dictate which way your free safety is going. If you're going one high, if it's your strong safety, if you've got two of them, however you want, he has to dictate where he's going. So if the strength is to the Y, you want to talk about the Y, maybe that's where he's going. So you're making some type of call, Lulu, Ray, and it's telling him which way he's going. So cover two is where you have flats covered, hook curls covered, and your deep halves covered. So for purposes, if you're watching on the video, so if you're a 4-2-5 team, you got your four down linemen, obviously. Then you have your Mike and Will backer sitting in the middle to protect from the run. So when a team goes 2-by-2, your outside backers, or if you want to call them safeties or anything you want, they do have to split the difference, or you can have them be head up. Splitting the difference makes it more difficult to me from an offensive perspective because maybe they're trying to throw slant, maybe you mess up the hitch they want to run, maybe they're trying to RPO you. And we'll talk about how maybe you can move guys around on defense against an offense when they try to do RPOs and everything else, out formation them on defense. But here's where it gets tricky in a 4-2-5. So if you're watching on the video, you want to cover the deep halves. So again, these halves are in between the hashes and the sideline. This is where you're protected, smash concepts that you want to try to block, even though smash is a 2-by-2 meter. You're trying to protect against those things. You're trying to protect against four verticals, throwing it deep and everything else like that. So then you got to determine who is dropping back. Is it your bandit or your jack? So if your bandit was the one dropping back, you might have him line up, not even with the linebackers, but a little bit back, splitting the difference. Then he's got to bail out and get to this deep half. Your corners are responsible for covering the flat. Now, they're not going to be quite up here towards line of scrimmage. If you want to press, cool. If not, a lot of teams dictate where they're trying to dictate where the guy wants to go. If you're trying to force him inside, you line up here. And then when he starts to run off, if you can get hands-on as a corner, you get hands-on, push him, but then you have to settle back in this zone. You can have them drop back about 4 yards or so they can fly up on the play. Both corners have the exact same responsibilities depending on game plan and who their best receiver is. So the corner's got the flat. If your bandit's the one dropping back, cool. Let's say he wasn't the one dropping back. Then he's going to have hook curl right in this area, right here. Your free safety would come over to the right. If you're watching on the videos, to the right, then your jack could be the one coming out and covering this. Now, sometimes, so in the middle of the field, it's a little more difficult because everything is very balanced. If this was to the boundary, even if ball was on the right hash, we're looking at from the right hash, it'd be a little bit easier. You could, drop back the banner, other linebacker a little bit. In cover two, if your jack's going to be the one out there, you have to bump your will out just a little bit. The Mike has to come in just a little bit because now the will has to bust to get to this hook curl. So that way it's just not an easy throw to this guy. And if they decide to throw a bubble, he's got to get out here and your jack has to be able to come down pretty hard. That's why he doesn't start the traditional probably 12 yards off the ball. He is coming back here. Your Mike has hook curl where he is. He's dropping hook curl. Now, it's not Tampa 2 where he's flying all the way into the middle to protect the middle. He's still in this hook curl because he's got run options first. So you've got these zones that the players have to protect. So in a 4-2-5, you're a little bit vulnerable if you don't have these backers that can fly out there. If you got a couple backers that can fly out there, great. If you have a safety that's down, you call him the jack and he can get back there, cool. Snap the ball, he starts creeping out and the will starts coming out, great. But this is what they mean by cover two. You're covering, there's two deep zones. That's what they're covering. Everybody else has a zone that they're covering. Corners got your flats. Your other safety backer has got a hook curl responsibility, and he's there to fly up on a bubble. Your Mike has hook curl. Your Will has a little flatter hook curl. He's got to really get out here and settle. Not quite a traditional hook curl. We'll talk about here in a little bit with the different defenses, but in a 4-2-5 traditional cover two, this is what it would look like, and that's why it was very important talking about the 4-2-5, the type of people you need to really run a 4-2-5. So this is going to look simple or very similar to what you just saw. So if you run a 4-4 defense where it's true outside linebackers and you want to run cover two, it's to me exactly the same. You just have your guys starting a little bit flatter with the linebackers. Maybe they're head up these guys. Your safety can start off in the middle of the field. But then when you want to run cover two, it's exactly the same. If this free safety is going to fly out here, if your backer clearly starts to creep back, whoever you want, again, personnel drops back here. Corner still has flats out here. Your Mike backer, whoever backer is with the backer that's dropping in coverage has to fly out still to cover this, or you can have them straight cover hook curl in hopes that they're not going to throw a bubble. The Mike still has his hook curl, and then the other outbacker has a deeper hook curl to make a play here. And your also hope is that your defensive end can get outside here and maybe disrupt. Maybe he runs down. So again, 4-4, pretty similar. That's why 4-2-5 and 4-4 to me are the same defenses. Some guys say 4-4, I think a 4-2-5. But again, does not look different. Cover two is cover two. So and a 4-4, it's pretty much very similar to this 4-2-5 that we just talked about. Now, still in that 2x2 set and a 4-3 defense, you most likely always start off in a 2-high shell when you're in a 4-3 defense. So it makes a cover two a lot easier from getting into your drop perspective and your landmark perspective. But it also, you have to line up a different way. So what I mean by that is you have, your 4-down lineman and you got 3 backers this time. You've got your Mike linebacker, your Will linebacker, and your Sam. Then you've got a free safety or a weak safety, depending on how you want to call it, and a strong safety. Your corners, nothing changed for the corners. They're still out here. So when they're 2x2 and they're in the slot, you have to now adjust how you line up to make sure that they're not going to just throw a bubble out there. So you can walk these safeties down a little bit, or maybe have them line up, head up these guys a little bit. Maybe not quite 12 yards, maybe they're 10 yards, maybe you have them up a little bit. Widen out your outside backers just a little bit. Maybe they're not quite splitting the difference, but they're outside here a little bit. So when they choose to run the slant, they have guys flying up to make the play. Your safeties are there to line up to make the play. But it's still cover two. So very similar. Your strong safety and your weak safety have whichever one you want to call them, they have this deep half still cover two, still have this deep half to try to stop 4 verticals when they go 2x2. Your corners still have flats. Now, again, very important. Those corners don't just have to sit right there. They can travel back a little bit to help out, bump the wide receivers to make sure that it gives them time as safeties to get into their drops. So here they're in their flats. Then you have your backers. The will backer can drop into this hook curl, make it a little flatter though to help out with the slots. Same thing with the Sam. He's got a hook curl here. Then your Mike, depending on the formations, coverages, what you practice, he kind of has middle hook curl out of this 4-3, but still everything's still covered. Looks a little different than the 4-2-5-4-4. But this is still covered 2 out of a 4-3. It makes it easier-ish on your safeties because they're already in your too high look. Corners, again, always have the same responsibilities. They just have to make sure, you're bumping the receivers, everything else, but still cover 2 is cover 2. It's mainly to stop 4 verticals. You still want to protect the run game, but I have a 4-4, 4-2-5, this 4-3. They look pretty similar, and then we'll talk about in another video of different ones. But this is right here, the even man front cover 2 defenses and how similar they really are. And that's this one. That's the cover 2 basics of, cover 2, the basics of it. I have a 4-2-5, 4-4, and a 4-3 look. And then we'll get into other defensive videos, how the 3-4 and the 4-3 are pretty similar, and how it's also very similar to a 3-3-5. And then we'll talk about cover 3 out of this, because you could run cover 2 against trips, but we'll talk about checks and cover 3s and everything else with this. Again, I told you I'm breaking this down as simple as possible, and then we'll get into other things. Play man off cover 2, play robber off of this, and everything else. How do you check this where he's reading certain guys before he drops in here and all that stuff. Part of the reason why I like coaching offense better than defense, but I'm trying to give back. So thank you guys for watching and or listening. Like and subscribe. If you want to be on the podcast, send me a message at coach_Steve72. Send me a message. We'll work it out to try to get you on the podcast before football starts up. Then I'll do my best after football starts. You still want to come on and talk ball. Rate it on Apple and iTunes. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. This is Coach Steve, another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast, and we will see you next time.